stayed at home on the ranch for a good long period of time. In fact, my brothers and sisters went to the Willard School, which is a country school about a mile east of where we lived for a long period of time. We lived in the sod house where I was born for about 1 year. And during the time that we were going to school, and after getting out of through the 8th grade, we all went to Ashland, Kansas, and stayed with our grandparents, and attended high school there. After we got out of high school, after I got out of high school, my dad decided that he wanted to make a lawyer out of me, so he decided that he was going to send me to Oklahoma University for a law degree. And at that time, money was rather short, and I remember that my mother ordered me my first suit of clothes that had long trousers, and they were very small at the bottoms, and you had to take your shoes off in order to get your trousers on. And in addition to that suit, I had 2 pair of corduroy trousers. And the first time that I got to OU to enroll, it was a little difficult because I'd never been there or any place like it, and I didn't really know where I was going. I got enrolled, and the day that school was supposed to start, I got in the wrong building the first time, and I was late to my first class. And then I guess we were engaging in a little of the social activities in the city of Norman, and I was rooming with at the home of a neighbor who had moved down there to send their son to school, and the family, or a girl next door, had invited us over to play cards that night. And it was a little warm, and we sit down at this table. We were sitting there for a long period of time, and when we got ready to leave, I was stuck to the chair. And you might say that I left a very good impression there at that time. Well, going to school, most of the time, I was engaged in politics and other campus activities, and devoted very little time to my studies. But I did manage to get through within 5 years, and engaged in the practice of law. No, before I got into practice of law, up at Buffalo, my hometown, I ran for county attorney and was elected as county attorney for a period of 2 years. And I will always remember the first case that I had to prosecute. And it was a bunch of gypsies that come to town, went out in the country, and picked the pockets of the farmer out there for about $700. And I prosecuted it. The jury gave him 7 years. Then a little later on, and to serve, but a little later on, I went to the Navy, and when I got back from the Navy, the Criminal Court of Appeals had decided decided the case on appeal and found that there was error in the trial and turned them loose. But anyway, we had, I gathered quite a little bit of experience from that prosecution. And after serving in county, as county attorney of Harper County for 2 terms, I started practicing law in Buffalo and did this for approximately 8 months when I was appointed Assistant United States District Attorney in Oklahoma City. This came about by the recommendations of both United States Senator Josh Lee and Elmer Thomas. And I served as Assistant United States District Attorney for approximately 2 years before I went into the Navy as a lieutenant in the Naval Intelligence. But during the time that I was in Oklahoma City, in addition to my work as Assistant United States Attorney, I got several articles in the Daily Oklahoman as one of the most eligible bachelors in Oklahoma City. I received a lot of good letters from a lot of different places, and I have an incomplete scrapbook containing all of this. Then after I was in the Navy for approximately 5 years, I got out and went back in the United States Attorney's Office. I might say that before I got out of the Navy, I started out at New Orleans, Louisiana. Then I was transferred to Port Arthur, Texas. Then from Port Arthur, Texas to North Africa. And I engaged in, after I got to North Africa, they took me out of intelligence and put me in amphibious landings, and I went into Sicily, Salerno, southern France, Normandy. And then after we finished there, I went over to, we went on ship clear back through the canal out in the Pacific, and we staged at different islands for the invasion of Okinawa. We went in on the west side of the Philippines after the British had somewhat softened them up, and then from there we invaded Okinawa. Then after returning from Okinawa and I was sent back to the United States to well, really I never did know why I was sent back to the United States, but just as soon as I got here, I got a wire that said I was to report back to the Philippines with a yeoman and a typewriter. And I got my yeoman and my typewriter and got back as far as Hawaii when I got word that the war was over. But since I had my orders to report to the Philippines for the purpose of going in on Japan, I had to complete the journey. And then after another 2 or 3 months was released from Japan to come back to the United States and then subsequently discharged. From there, as as I previously stated, I went back into the United States Attorney's Office and was there, not very many months, and I decided to come out to Woodward and set up a campaign headquarters to run for Congress, which I did. And I had a lot of campaigning, and a long campaign for that office, because we had the first primary was narrowed down to 2 of us, and my opponent in the runoff campaign was Roy Turner. And as it happened, Roy Turner was the candidate for governor that time. And there was a lot of confusion as to which Roy Turner was which, so the one that was running for governor, he changed all of his signs, and he said Roy Turner, Roy J, that is. That was his sign. So I won the runoff primary, and then in the general election I was opposed by Ross Risley, and Ross Risley defeated me, and I already had my office set up, so I just stayed at Woodward and started practicing law. Then I met a girl in Woodward with the name of Maxine Cullen, and we had a tornado, and right after the tornado we were married. I think the first time that I ever knew anything about Maxine was I saw her picture in the paper when it said she was returning from, I believe, Japan, where she had been in the service for, what service was she?
Red Cross.
Red Cross? For a period of time. And shortly after she got back, and shortly after the tornado, we got married. I think the first time that I ever had a date with her was I called her for a date one time, and she said that she and their brother Mark, she and some friends were going to take her brother Mark to Buffalo to catch a bus to go somewhere, and asked if I wanted to go along. And I told her I did, so that was the first time. And then it went on from there, and of course we got married. And during our marriage, it was a very good marriage, and we worked together. I guess you might say we made a good living, and she worked in community work. She had previously taught school, and she didn't teach school any longer. And we had a family of 3 girls, and I always felt that Maxine did a great job of raising the girls. They all went to the University of Oklahoma. They all had accomplished certain orders in their particular lines, and all were Phi Beta Kappas. social sorority or sorority of Pi Phi's, and I think they maybe were all president of the house at one time or another, and accomplished other scholastic honors that pleased their mother and me quite a bit. And then, during this time, we did try over a lot of times to go on trips, and we took the three girls with us. I remember one time in particular we went to Hawaii on a tour, which was, we went to Las Vegas for a stop, and then San Francisco for another stop. During the time that we were in Las Vegas, we had a little happening that was rather interesting that we met up with. They were ready to go to San Francisco, and they had a little problem with transportation, and the plane was going to leave this particular night, and they asked for volunteers to go, so we volunteered to go ahead and go on that plane. And there were 2 or 3 men on there, that had 2 or 3 women, or had women with them, and they were very much intoxicated, and they made a big ruckus about everything. When we got to this, one of them tried to get me to, when we got there, to testify about something that they were all right. So, but anyway, the sheriff's force met the plane at the airport and took charge of the gentleman. And the only thing we heard as a result of that was that in the paper the next day it set out the fact that these people were arrested, and I believe that one of them was a mayor and maybe a city councilman or something of a smaller town down south of San Francisco. Then we get to San Francisco, and we stay there a few days, and we start on Oklahoman, and we wait for several days, not several days, but we were always waiting. Every time we were supposed to go somewhere for the next stop, we would wait. So we were all out at the airport, and we waited for about 2 or 3 hours for the plane, and one of our group, Charlie Durker from Oklahoma City, and his wife among us, so he got tired of that, so he just said, "I've had all I'm going to take," and he said, "I'm going home," and he left us right there and went home. And when we got back to Oklahoma City, he was out there and met the plane so that he could get his bags. He didn't get anything when he left. He had his bags with him, but we had big time on that trip, and I think the girls enjoyed it, and I know we did. And from time to time after that, we went on trips, and I know I think the last trip we made while Maxine was here was to Aruba, and we had big time at Aruba. In fact, Dana was with us down at Aruba, and we took we got an automobile, or a driver of an automobile to take us around on the island, and we saw quite a little bit. And Aruba it's a nice place. It's got a lot of big hotels, and they have public gambling there. They have good places to eat, and but at that time, that was the only place we went before we came back home. But we did have a very enjoyable time, and we bought a lot of stuff at the different places there. I think in particular linens and stuff like that. One thing did happen on that, not on that trip, but another trip we made down to St. Vincent's. That was before I think that it was as commercialized as it may be at this time. And I got a cab to go downtown because I didn't have any money, and I wanted to go down to the bank and get some money. So I went down to the bank with this taxi cab driver, and I said, now if you want to, I don't have any money to pay you, but if you want to, you can come in the bank with me and I'll get the money and I'll pay you. He said, no. I said, don't do that. He said, when you get back up to the hotel, just give Charlie $1 and that'll just be fine. And I thought at the time that if I had been in Oklahoma City, they'd still be after me trying to get that fare, but that's what I did, and then everything was fine. And I have been, of course, practicing law here most all the time since I first came, except for a short time back in 1949 to 1951. Well, when I was chairman appointed by Johnson Murray, the then governor, to act as chairman of the Industrial Commission, and I served in that position for about 2 years, and have been here ever since that time, continuously in the practice of law. I might say that during one period in my practice, I was selected and appointed to the American College of Trial Lawyers, which was a great honor as far as I was concerned. And at the time, Maxine and the 3 girls and myself, we all went to California, where I was to be inducted in this organization, and we had a good time on that trip. And I'm about to run out, I think.
I think, Tom, what about, I think I can get close to those pictures. You want to kind of go through those and tell us who they are and something about them behind you? I see a picture of your dad right directly behind you.
Well, my father was a farmer rancher up north of Buffalo, and he had his first love, of course, was his cattle, and he had a lot of good cattle. He made quite a bit of money on cattle. He made money on land, and he never did spend any, which I always urged him to spend some money, but he and my mother really never did go anywhere. Early in the beginning of their farm life, they didn't spend any money. when we were kids at home, we would go to Buffalo, the town closest to our home, and we would usually get enough money on that particular Saturday to get a haircut and a bottle of pop, which was about 25 cents altogether. And my wife's folks, Dan Cullen and Faye Cullen, lived near Woodward, and we were very close, and that we visited in the homes of one another all the time, and usually either Mr. Cullen or Mrs. Cullen would be here almost every day, and we were at their home quite a little bit. In fact, Faye Cullen would babysit for our three girls on lots of occasions when we would make trips to different places. And here we have one
That's your Navy pictures over there behind you.
yeah, those are Navy pictures.
Get over in there.
I started out as a Navy, as a lieutenant in the Navy, and ended up as a lieutenant commander. And I was glad to get out of the Navy, whatever my rank might be.
I think the girls, Tom, might like to hear a little bit about your plans for your future. You know them?
I tell you, my plans for my future are continue practicing law. There's some things about the law that I don't really like anymore, due to the fact that we have so many different rules and regulations that we've got to comply with, and pleading and such as that. But I do plan to continue it, but I don't plan to do as much work as I have in the past. And I can do that either of one or two ways. I can dissolve the partnership that I'm in, and I can practice by myself, or I can stay where I am in the partnership and cut down on my activities and my practice. And in doing that, I can spend more time out of the office doing some of the things that I want to do. I don't know socially whether I will do anything or not. Of course, if I met someone that I liked and we could, why, I might get married again, but it's rather doubtful. I intend, of course, to help my girls do, and their families do whatever they want to do, which I have done in the past and will continue to do so. And my daughter Kathy, the oldest oldest daughter. She is married to Jerry Dick. She has two wonderful children, Jennifer and Brian. And my middle daughter, Pat, is married to Henry Meyer III, who is a partner in my law firm. And they have two children, Adam and Megan. And I don't want to get too far away from them. I think they're great children, and I want to be around them, and will be around them. But as far as the law practice is concerned, I just am at the place right now where I don't want to work as hard as I've been working in the past. And I don't feel that I have to, and I've just decided that I wasn't. I intend to continue to live in Woodward, and I intend to continue to live in the same house that I'm living in at this time. During the last few years, I have invested in some different kind of investments that I feel that with that and with my law business in the future, that I can amply take care of myself and help my children all at the same time. And that's what I intend to do.
Well, you help the federal government too, of course.
Yeah, I'll help the federal government quite a little bit. And in fact, I've already helped them quite a little bit. A few years ago, I got word that I was now eligible for Medicare, which was a rather disturbing situation. And I at this time am drawing my Medicare check, and they include half of that check in my income taxes. So I don't know really whether it helps either to get it or not. And I had something that I was going to say in connection to that, but I'm not sure what it was right now.
Well, Tom, I feel like I've just about drained you of the interview and information. That I'll say this in behalf of the girls, that they will treasure this and play it and replay it the rest of their lives. And I for one, want to thank you for taking the time in behalf of them to share this evening.
Well, thank you very much, Bob. I appreciate you doing it, and I appreciate the fact that they will